Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of episode 5 of Wednesday. You reap what you woe. This was the first episode not directed by Tim Burton. He is done for the season on this show. Now, like all my reviews, I'll be talking spoilers for this episode, but nothing after this episode, so please keep the comments to what we've seen so far, any theories you have, but nothing after this episode. These reviews are meant to be watched as a companion piece. As you're watching along, you can watch with me. So definitely make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my reviews of Wednesday. So the episode opens with a line from Wednesday: how well do we really know our parents? And this will lead to her looking into this mystery about her father's murder accusation. So this episode really plays as just a murder mystery episode, and it's parents' weekend, so it's good because it's a way to bring back Morticia and Gomez into the fold here. And we get to learn a lot more about Weems as well. But before we even get into the murder mystery part of the episode, I like that we got to get an update quickly on Eugene, that he is going to be okay, but he is in a coma, and it's interesting that Weems is the one saying he's on the mend, and it's looking good because Weems, as we know, just like the mayor, are these characters that like to cover things up, but also are so obsessed with the image of what they represent. But we see Wednesday is feeling some guilt here about what happened to Eugene. Is like, I'm the reason he is in the hospital. So she goes to see Eugene in his coma, and he brings him honey, and she even says, "We miss you." What I did like is when we meet Eugene's moms, they say he was so excited to finally make a real friend. That was great. And it shows Wednesday the effect she's already having on someone like Eugene. Again, whether she wants to admit that or not. Now, there's also two characters we really learn a lot more about. The first is Enid, and the other one is Bianca. So, starting with Enid's story this episode, Enid's mother is this overbearing wolf. And she's disappointed Enid hasn't wolfed out yet. So the big moment here is her giving Enid this lycanthropy conversion camp pamphlet and wants her to go there. And you see the father is heartbroken by this and is this quiet dad that's watching his wife just be horrible. And she's like, don't you want to wolf out and be normal? But you'll see Enid at the end sticks up to her mom's like, I'm not going to the camp. If I meant to wolf out, I will do it on my own timeline, not yours. I hope one day you'll accept me for who I am. And the dad's really proud of her. So this kind of really alludes to just in our society when someone who is not the clear-cut straight person is pushed to go to a conversion camp. It's relating to that kind of story here for Enid, but in her case it is wolfing out, being what would be the straight normal thing in the wolf culture, we could say. Now, the writing for it, though, might have been a little too on the nose, but also too easy. Like, it wasn't that interesting. It felt very copy-paste from other shows that have handled this topic before, just put with a coat of it being that they're wolves. So that was a little disappointing for me. Now, on the other side of things with Bianca, what I did like about Bianca's story is there's a lot more mystery brewing into it, and they do it a little more subtle. So we learn that her mom is nuts, but usually doesn't show up for her, but surprisingly does here, but it's because she wants something. She wants Bianca to come back to the Morning Song community. She says it misses her, and Bianca calls it a cult. And we learned, changed her name, and she was originally Brandy Jane as her real name. But that's when the mom says, Gideon said you would resist, and we learn the mom married this man she doesn't like, and that this mysterious Gideon is what Bianca's claiming uses sirens for his own needs. And then we see how awful her mom could be because it doesn't become a request, it becomes a demand for her to come back. And she actually blackmails her own daughter and says, if you don't come, everyone's going to know how you sirened your way into Nevermore. So it's a nice way to make us learn about the mom, but also more information about Bianca and her past. And she says a siren can never change her scales. So this is a lot about class. We know that Bianca's story, that she comes from a lower class background and that she has this pressure to stay with what she grew up as and not ignore her past. And we'll see Bianca will make a deal with her at the end that she'll go with her if it's at the end of the school year. So it's going to be interesting. This seems like a lot of setup for a season 2 story for Bianca, but it definitely made her character more interesting for me. But more effective because, again, it's not as like on the surface revealing everything like it is with Enid. It's just more complicated, which I like. So when the episode starts really leaning into the murder mystery, we see that somebody is trying to frame Gomez, and that what kind of really screwed Wednesday in her own doing was leaving that bubble gum on the security cam. So I like they showed she's not like the perfect detective, that she's still got some flaws there. And when they arrest Gomez, I like that we get a very funny moment to me you got to catch quickly, but when Wednesday goes and visits Gomez in prison, that Thing puts his hand on the glass, and when he goes to touch Gomez, his hand just falls down because there's nothing to support his weight. There's no arm there. I thought that was great. And this is one of my favorite scenes. There's two great scenes in this episode. One's with Gomez and Wednesday talking, and then the scene at the end in the library with Morticia and Wednesday talking, where they both kind of get to stand out here, the characters of Gomez and Morticia. And Gomez says, "Sorry I wasn't a better father." But Wednesday really knows her dad well because she knows he's lying, and this is going to give her the hunch that he wasn't the one who actually killed Gates. And she says, "You taught me how to be strong and independent, how to navigate myself in a world of treachery and prejudice, reason I know to never lose sight of myself," and actually praises him for being a good father in her way, saying this. So I really like that. I also love when he's talking about the flashback, they keep showing this shot of Weems seeing Gates fall off the balcony. And what I love about that shot is the most Tim Burton-esque shot ever, with it lifting up and her with the umbrella in the rain. And I was like, it's ironic that that would be the most Tim Burton shot in the episode he didn't direct. I thought that was crazy. But see, Wednesday's connecting that whoever hurt Eugene, the last episode, also is the one who murdered the coroner and framed her dad. It's all connecting now. But what's important in that scene, when she's telling that to the sheriff, is that he quickly mentions that the DNA didn't match that bloody rag of Xavier's and the monster claw. So that's interesting. That's important, and that kind of eliminates Xavier as the ultimate suspect here. Now, what's also important is the sheriff informs Wednesday about the history of the Gates family, that the mother hung herself after her son was killed, and that the father drank himself to death. But what's important, he says, the little sister didn't escape, orphan, sent overseas, and ended up drowning. There you go. That means that the little sister character is very important, and that she's definitely still alive, and I'm for sure that it is Thornhill, Christina Ricci's character. And remember, too, at the end of the episode, the mayor's looking at the photo, and it zooms in on the family, and to again make the point of that little sister character. So we have this mysterious Thornhill character. We don't know much about her at all, but I'm going to say that is who she is, and that she is pulling all these strings. Now, another great scene too, because they're doing a good job with this whole episode of Wednesday and having these nice moments with her family, is her comforting Pugsley while her dad is in jail, and gives him a grenade to fish with. I thought this was great and clever, and I like that we get to see her throw one too. And they get this nice bonding moment where Pugsy's like telling her she's the one that's gonna have to save Dad, and she says to be strong for your mom. So it's nice, and again, gets the heart of this classic Addams family, that they all do care for each other and have each other's back. So we learn now in this great scene with Morticia in the library that she's talking to Wednesday, and she's giving me a lot of information that the Nightshade group used to be so much more, and its mission was to protect outcasts from harm and bigotry, and the group was started by Goody, and that this Goody that Wednesday's been seeing is the ancestor of her father, and that she did end up killing Joseph Crackstone. But she says nightshades were her secret but deadly answer to his oppression. But it's important later on that Morticia will say to Wednesday that careful with Goody as being your trainer, because Goody was a great witch of great strength, but vengeance pushed her too far, and even she couldn't save herself. So there is a choice we still have coming about Goody, and that maybe, again, she's saying she pushed herself too far, that Goody probably did something that went crossing the line and hurt herself in the end. And that where Wednesday's gonna have to be the different version of a Goody, where she's this rebellion doing what's for the right cause for these outcasts, but learning from Goody's mistake, that not to go too far in some kind of case we'll probably see in the finale. But I love when Morticia's like, come on, Wednesday, ask me what you want to ask, because Wednesday, she's seeing, is connecting all the dots here, that it wasn't Gomez who killed Gates, that he was framing it as himself for Morticia to protect her, and it was Morticia who actually did it, and that Wednesday also connects the dots that he was actually poisoned because of how he was behaving in these rapid eyes and foaming at the mouth. Now, I have another theory, though, that even though he was poisoned and that he was already dying, that's confirmed, right, that the Nightshade cracked when he was pushed in by Gomez, I also still think he was a monster, though, and that's why he really was having these rabid eyes, and that is why I think it's Thornhill, because I think that family has that gene, and that she is also a monster and wants revenge for what happened to her brother. So that's what I think is the long game here with that. And this was just also amazing stuff by Zeta Jones here as Morticia. Really great when she delivered the line. I was grateful when they cleared him of wrongdoing, but I know someday this would come back to haunt us. Just great stuff. And just throughout this episode, like, you see the scene with her at the end with Wednesday telling her, you can always talk to me about the visions. I'm here for you. There's a motherly effect to her in Wednesday's relationship. She does so that's so kind to Wednesday, but a little heartbroken about where the relationship currently is, but hopeful and caring. I just think she's doing a great job as Morticia for sure. And I love that kiss she gave Wednesday saying goodbye on the cheek. That was from far away. That was great. And I love when they went to go dig the grave of Gates. She says to Wednesday, "This reminds me of when I got you your first grave digging kit. You were so happy you almost smiled." Just great lines like that. And you see even when the cop came, we got another reference, Easter egg here, when she's like, "Guess there's going to be an Addams Family reunion in lockup tonight," referencing the 1998 TV movie where Tim Curry was Gomez. So also, when they go to confront the mayor about all of this, they get him to free Gomez because they'll reveal all the stuff he's done that's messed up and covered up. But he does mention that Ansel Gates, Garrett Gates' father, was mad that his family's land was stolen by this Nevermore place being built. And it's his family over 200 years ago. So I'm for sure that he is related, this family, to the Crackstone, Joseph Crackstone. I also think it's interesting with Morticia that she explains about the visions to Wednesday, that she has positive ones, Morticia, because she is more of a positive mindset and it makes her a dove, but what makes Wednesday a raven is she has a more dark in the lens and it has more visions then that are potent, more powerful, but also more dangerous without proper training because it can lead her to madness, which I thought was really interesting and great. And that she can only be trained by something that's not a living being, and that would be Goody, is the one who reached out in the bloodline from beyond. So we'll see in Wednesday's great detective work, she's handed the yearbook and connects Weems didn't just impersonate Judy Garland, she became her, and figures out she's a shapeshifter, so then connects the dots that we already knew from the earlier episodes that Weems was shapeshifting as Rowan after he was killed. And when Wednesday threatens to tell the sheriff this, Weems is like, it doesn't matter because Rowan's dad is in on this, because this is all about keeping appearances, and that Rowan had already lost his mind, was mad. So his tragic death led us to rectify the situation, she says, without casting the school or Rowan in an unflattering light. And this is where Wednesday calls her out for being a hypocrite like Walker and burying bodies to cover dirty secrets. What's also interesting about this Weems character, though, is she always knows a lot more than she lets on, but she did say the line last episode that she was like, let's make sure the punch isn't spiked. So she did know about Garrett Gates planning to spike the punch back in the day, so it makes me wonder how much she knew back at that time, and also if she's ever shape-shifting as the mayor, as that she would have that information. So it's interesting in that case too. But I still think she's like the Professor Snape type character, which they have very questionable ways of how they go about things, but she's still obviously looking out for Wednesday. So overall, I'm going to give this episode an 8.6. I think it was very good in terms of mystery. I'm happy they brought the Addams Family back so we get more time for that, because I think there's a lot of people looking forward to that, just seeing those classic characters, and they got a lot of screen time here, which was great, but not forced in. And again, I think I would have gave it a higher score if they did a need story a little better. I think it could just be more interesting and feel more different than we're used to, where those type of storylines are usually handled. So it felt kind of just copy and paste in my opinion, but still very good. And I'm happy the quality stays the same level even without Tim Burton directing. So that's a sigh of relief. So again, 8.6 for me. Just keeps some momentum going here and just a very solid show. Let me know, though, your thoughts down below of this episode, any theories you got. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss one of my reviews of Wednesday. I do reviews of other TV shows as well. And please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for more of me. And I'll see you next time.